Jennifer here from Belladonna's Botanicals, and I'm coming to you with the next installment for our book recommendation series. This is something I get asked a lot about, what, because as I mentioned in previous videos, giant book nerd, so I read a lot. So I did the first video on Lilith, and this video I'm going to be doing on Lucifer. So I'm going to be going through, I'm starting to kind of vet my collections of things as in what I've read, what I'm in the process of reading, or am at least familiar enough with that I can talk about. So it's just taking me a little while to kind of break it down into different categories. But today I thought I'd do a video on Lucifer. So I want to talk a little bit about my recommendations for that, because they kind of fall into three areas. And I'm just going to mention, I am doing a separate video on on grimoires like the Goetia, Grimoire Verum, all those types of grimoires. I'm going to do a separate video on that because that kind of cross-pollinates through a lot of the different demonic hierarchies and stuff like that. So anywho, so the first ones I want to talk about, and I actually need to pull up my iPad for this because I listened. These were books I listen to a lot of audiobooks too while I'm working. So the ones that I recommend, these ones are all more fiction based in a way. So the three that I definitely recommend, this one is The Ultimate Book of Fallen Angels, Watchers, Giants, the Nephilim, and the Books of Enoch by Joseph Lumpkin. I know this is probably backwards for you, but I have to figure out how to do that without mirroring my entire setup on here. It did it fine when I was using Zoom, but I'm using a different program for this now, and it does everything backwards. So I have to figure that out. But this one, if you really want to understand, and this isn't just Lucifer. This is about the whole history of the fallen angels, the Watchers, the Nephilim, all of that kind of what I think they call apocryphal biblical lore. So if you want to get a better understanding of that aspect of Lucifer, or even just the fallen angel aspect of Lucifer or other entities, that's definitely it's a rather long. There are some abridged versions of it. There's the complete version, because I think there's several books that go into the Book of Enoch or into the apocryphal texts from the Bible. So this is kind of going into a little bit of that, the events about, the fallen angels, the revolt in heaven, the Watchers sent to earth, that's going to be like an Azazel and Sednyaza, what they brought in terms of teaching mankind or humanity, different skills. I think Yaza brought sorcery, whereas Azazel was fire and makeup, or weapons and makeup, because fuck yeah, the original goth. So you'll have things like that that's sort of where those origins, because you'll hear that peppered through things in the different books that you read about Lucifer or Luciferianism, and different occult books, and even in a lot of videos are going to kind of mention some of these different things. It's good to have just sort of a general idea of where that comes from. And there's a lot of Gnostic Luciferian stuff, which I haven't entirely dipped my toes into as well, but this will give you a good start. The other one I wanted to recommend, or there's actually a couple I wanted to recommend from this, is, sorry, I think this is going to start playing, but I don't want it to play. Just show me the picture. Title details. Is John Milton's Paradise Lost. And now this is I'm sorry, I'm getting my ring light reflecting. So Paradise Lost, damn it, I just hit the wrong button. I have to go back. So Paradise Lost is sort of that epic poem, but it's also very well known piece. And you're going to start seeing, some of that stuff also kind of gets pulled into the concepts and things around Lucifer and again, kind of going off of that biblical lore, because sorry to take a little side note of that, is when we talk about Lucifer, there's sort of a lot of there's different thoughts on it. It's sort of like, well, Lucifer as the morning star, or Lucifer as Venus, or Lucifer as Satan, or Lucifer as the fallen angel aspect, Lucifer as a demonic aspect, Lucifer and Amaymon as, the Lord of the Black Sun or something like that. So there's a lot of different concepts around Lucifer. So kind of understanding the origin of some of these things is also really helpful. It may not apply to your practice and your ritual and your relationship with Lucifer, but at least conceptually you have some understanding. And like I mentioned, I'm a big nerd, so I like to learn all the things, all of them. And lastly, I know there's probably two more. Also recommend, hold on. The Watchers and Their Ways by Baal Kadmon. That might not be entirely Lucifer specific, but if you're doing the Book of Enoch, that might be a good little foray. And the other one was called Fallen Angels, and that is by Ken Johnson. I don't know if this is going to come up or not, but that's another one I read recently. Again, it goes into that fallen angel kind of mythos and lore. If that's something that you're interested in, that aspect of working with Lucifer, I do recommend that. Details. Fucking hell. All right. That's this one. Oops. There we go. So again, this is and with the Book of Enoch and the fallen angels, a lot of the stuff comes from the Dead Sea Scrolls. So you're kind of overarching what that's about. And this is again kind of going into the fall of Lucifer and Azazel and Timyaza and some of the angels around that. Also talking again about the Nephilim were the offspring of the Watchers having had some fun times with the lady humans, and that was their offspring. This also goes into the flood myths and stuff like that, to wipe out the Nephilim because there were abominations and ate everything ever. So again, that's one aspect if you're kind of coming out of that sort of lore. So those are the first ones I wanted to kind of talk about in Lucifer. Now, not specifically, in terms of working with Lucifer, in terms of developing a spiritual practice around that. But now we're going to get into the books that are helpful with that. So, and I don't remember which one came first. Okay, I don't know which came first, Awakening Lucifer or Rites of Lucifer. But Awakening Lucifer is by Asenath Mason and Bill Duvendack, and the Rites of Lucifer were from the Temple of Descending Flame. And these were some of the first books I read when I started working with Lucifer. And I found them really helpful to get an understanding of, different aspects of Lucifer. Now, this particular one, Awakening Lucifer, goes into like the Promethean aspects, bringing in stuff with Melchtus, Shemyaza, Samael, Lucifuge, Rophakal, Lu, Shiva, Azazel, Pan, and Janus. Because what you'll see in a lot of a lot of pantheons, whether you're looking at something like the Greco-Roman pantheon or the Celtic or Nordic, or going into the celestial angels and archangels, or the demonic divine or dark goddesses, is that there's a lot of archetypal overlap. So that's kind of what they were talking about a lot in this book. I highly recommend it. I actually want to reread this. I mean, there's some invocations in here as well. I'm working with some sigils. There might be some rituals in here. I'm just kind of flipping through. It's been a hot minute since I've read this, so I probably read this about 3 years ago. I definitely, and this is going to be focusing more on the Draconian aspects too of working with Lucifer, because these two books were sort of, I think they were the precursors to the Draconian ritual book, which I have not worked my whole way through yet, and that's by Asenath Mason, I believe. And this goes more deeply into the draconian practices of Luciferianism. I don't think it's entirely specific to Lucifer, because I'm just flipping to like the invocation of Mephistopheles, some stuff about Samael, an invocation of Tiamat. So it's got a lot more in it than just Lucifer, but thought it was worth mentioning. And the Rites of Lucifer from the Temple of Ascending Flame. So this one we've got, this has multiple author contributions, all who are members of the Temple of Ascending Flame at that time. So we have like Asenath Mason, Bill Duvendack, Edgar Cavall, Damon Barzai, a couple other people, Christian Velasco, and then just some that are credited to Temple of Ascending Flame. So I assume those were just sort of collaborative pieces that were written. So this has got a lot more in it as far as rituals go, involving Lucifer. Obviously some historical stuff as well, invocations, sigils. And that's one of the things that's interesting. Like when it comes to working with spirits, I did a separate video on this. Actually, picture that one on my altar somewhere, or somewhere in my house. Is it over there? Yep, it's over there. It's over my main altar. It's just the one of Asenath Mason's illustrations of Lucifer. But when it comes to using different sigils they have kind of their own sigils. There's some of the standard sigils for Lucifer. So I always say go with what you feel the most drawn to. But yeah, so there's a lot. This one I recommend this series probably out of all of them the most, as far as really developing a working relationship with Lucifer. This one, I really enjoyed this book. I think I read the Kindle version of it, and then I bought a hard copy. Is I, Lucifer by E.R. Vernor, and he'd also done one of the books I mentioned in the Lilith series. And this is exploring the archetype and origins of the devil. So this is a little more conceptual in that sense, but I found this to be a really helpful encapsulation of a lot of the different aspects of Lucifer. So, we've kind of got the fallen angel, that sort of thing. It incorporates the archetype of Lucifer, some stuff with Carl Jung, the tarot and the devil, the duality of good and evil, early Christian, and from angel to demon, going on the lust and the pride aspect. It brings in some other aspects of the devil from other traditions like Sumeria, drawing in the biblical book of Revelations, concepts of hell from like Sumeria and Egypt, and then how these kind of transformed over time, like through the Middle Ages, the Age of Enlightenment. Here we mentioned some of the works that kind of surround stuff like, again, stuff by John Milton, William Blake, Dante's Inferno, which I think I forgot to mention with the in the beginning, but that's definitely one that's worth at least Dante's Inferno. But it's the three parts, the Paradiso and Purgatorio and stuff like that. So, we've kind of going into that. Then we go into some more modern stuff like the Church of Satan, and, some, pop cultural aspects of Lucifer. Because if you're into chaos magic and you work with Lucifer, you might want to work with the pop cultural aspects of Lucifer, because that's a whole different area right there. So we've got some of that, mentioning different, movie things. And yeah, so this one I felt like, out of all the books about Lucifer that are out there, and it's a pretty easy read, very, very large text, but this one I found to be a really good, like, big picture condensed into something that's pretty malleable, and not really dense, not really complicated. Like the book of Enoch, if you wanted to read the full unabridged version, the audiobook alone is about 15, 16 hours. So I can't imagine sitting down reading the whole thing. I would say honorable mention, but one of the other books I read early on, this was the Lucifer Amaymon companion from Become a Living God. I didn't find, as much as when I was connecting with Lucifer, this one to be that much of having that much of an impact, because it was really focusing more on the Amaymon connection and aspect, because I think it was originally about Amaymon, and then it kind of got connected with Lucifer, and I don't know. Like, I feel like Lucifer, personally speaking, like, I just never connected with the Amaymon aspect of Lucifer, or as a separate entity, the way that it's put out, like in this particular book. Um, I mean, there's some good information in here. I mean, for the price of the book, I don't know that it would really be. I don't know if it's really worth the investment, to be honest. Looking back, um, I mean, there's got some, there's got some good authors in here. I mean, there's contributions from Curtis Joseph, Edgar Cavall, Bill Duvendack, Frank White, Ashbourne Torval. So I mean, there's good stuff in here. It's just more focusing on the Amaymon aspect of Lucifer than, sort of the more traditional concepts of Lucifer. So I just thought I'd give that a mention. And lastly, I wanted to talk about books about Luciferianism. And I don't have a lot on hand, but if you want to start someplace, Michael W. Ford, the Apotheosis, The Ultimate Beginner's Guide to Luciferianism and the Left-Hand Path, is a really good entry point for understanding the sort of spiritual practice of Luciferianism as it differentiates itself from Satanism. So, and how to work within that, what's the word I'm looking for, construct, within that methodology, magical practice. And he has so many different books on Luciferianism, and I suggest, checking those out. Because there's different deviations of that, like, Luciferianism approach is going to be very different than, say, a satanic approach, or or strict black magic approach, or a Luciferian Gnostic approach, or anything like that, or just a broad left hand path approach, or an occult, a broadly occult approach, or chaos magic, or anything like that. So if you really want to learn about Luciferianism as a whole, as a practice, I definitely suggest checking out Michael W. Ford's work. And he also has a YouTube channel as well. So, anyways, that is my hot take on some of the Lucifer books that I've read. Again, this is not an exhaustive list. There are a lot of books out there on Lucifer. Um, some of them are going to be more ritual books. Some of them are going to be um more historical. Some are going to be more, kind of going with different facets, and then sometimes it's just woven into larger books about, you know I'm sure that I didn't look through it. I'm sure the Satanic Bible probably has a mention of something of Lucifer in there. So, but I'm doing a separate series on books on Satanism. So I think the Church of Satan, Anton, the Levian Satanism stuff is going to go into that video. So I'm trying to separate this out. I'm creating order from chaos. So I'm trying to separate this out a little bit better, in order to kind of give, like, clear lists of, like, things that I've read to this point in 2023 when I am recording this video. I may do updated ones over time as I read more things. I'm like, guys, this is the best book ever. Or as new things are published, because that happens. So, anyways, don't forget to click like and subscribe, and I will be bringing you more topics in the occult. And if you have any suggested ones that you want to see book recommendations for in the series, drop a comment below and let us know, and we will try our best. Anyways, love you all.